Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, welcome, and welcome to another Alternative Factuals video. And today we're going to be discussing some very interesting information. Some information a lot of you guys probably have kind of read about online. And obviously, if you're big fans of this particular show, I wouldn't see a reason why you wouldn't know this already ahead of time. But before I dive into any of that stuff or anything related to today's video, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe, and be sure to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, suggestions, anything that you want to see from this channel regarding TV shows, plot, character developments, anything of that nature, or even something a little different. Just let me know in the comments and we'll be sure to cover it for this channel at some point in the near future. And without further ado, let's kind of dive into this. So like myself, there are plenty of people who are fans of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I always say Marvel, like an individual, like, Marvel, instead of Marvels as a possessive kind of tense, but whatever. There are many people out there who are fans of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And don't get me wrong, the show is phenomenal. The show is very much heavily involved with some really great storytelling and writing aspects. And I do want to discuss two things. One, why the show is so successful, and two, why the show actually might potentially be rolled into phase 4 of the MCU in terms of, future series and movies and all that stuff. So let's dive into it. So there are two aspects of a TV show in general, as well as a movie, that makes things very interesting. That is story and plot. Now, a lot of people tend to get the two mixed up, where plot is more or less just a brief description of the overall analysis of where the story is going, rather than the story is basically a way to identify a detailed chronological order in which things develop over the course of a specified time. So that's basically the difference between those two. Like I said, they're very correlated, heavily correlated between each other, but most people don't realize that they're actually two very different things. So let's kind of dive into it. Season 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of go on about this aspect of the monoliths and how, to some degree, that they're used actually to kind of evolve mankind to, some sort of state, using them and combining them into a singular point, and as well as Azel using the strike to kind of do it. So we kind of already got the grasp or the idea of that's what they're meant for. And in general, outside of the show, this concept is something that has been very specific in the MCU, simply because when we got Age of Ultron and the Avengers, there were a lot of scientists who were actually using the alien technology to try and improve the human race as a whole. So that is a very big concept that has actually kind of taken over the aspect of the Avengers and MCU movies and the MCU universe and all that stuff. So this is stuff that's actually very accurate and very consistent within the storytelling of this particular universe when it comes to live action. Now, don't get me wrong, these same concepts were actually explored in Marvel Comics over the course of pretty much its existence, where different characters develop powers based on how Celestials planted these genetic encodings for like Inhumans, mutants, and people who can just develop powers from exposure to gamma radiation, like the Incredible Hulk and stuff like that. There's a reason why people develop powers in Marvel Comics, and it's because of a genetic encoding. They were designed for very specific purposes, and they were designed to develop powers for very specific reasons in terms of being able to adapt to their surroundings and being able to survive in very unhospitable environments. So this is a concept that's very consistent across the series, the movies, everything that you've ever seen in the MCU. Even though there is an overarching villain and antagonist and protagonist, you will always see that there is an aspect of it where a lot of this has to do with, to some degree, human evolution. The Super Soldier Program, the mutants, and the Fantastic Four, cosmic radiation, gamma radiation, all this stuff is all tied into the fact that humans are supposed to kind of evolve or change into a higher form of being. At least that's basically what they're kind of working towards throughout the course of Marvel history. So now that we've kind of got that portion out of the way, how is this going to roll into the phase 4 of films? Now, relatively speaking, we already know that Disney Plus is going to be a concept in which they have an app where they release all of their content, and that's just not, just the Avengers or the MCU movies, but that includes Disney movies and all that stuff. So anything that Disney owns under that umbrella is going to basically be on that app. And how they're going to roll this stuff in, I think, is pretty much straightforward and very simple, where they're going to get their content and they're going to roll it in, especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because everyone knows that this show was actually very much canon, and it was in the same continuity as the MCU movies. When something happened in the movie, it did affect the show directly, immediately. And it affected the show in such a way to the point they actually told stories around certain concepts to kind of make a point that yes, this does exist in this particular universe. For example, when when Thanos snapped out half the life in the universe, they actually did make a reference to there's half of the population missing at one point during the season. I believe it was season 5 or it might have been season 6. One of the two. No, I think it was season 5. They made a reference to that. But ultimately, they did reference Thanos. They did reference the whole fact of the Black Order. They did reference Doctor Strange. And also you have Maria Hill, not Phil Coulson, but you have Director Fury. A lot of people have crossed over into this show and kind of proved that these shows exist in the same continuity. So there's no question about that. Now, the reason I feel like they're definitely going to try and roll over aspects of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is simply because they introduce a lot of aspects that were also introduced in Captain Marvel the movie. Now, it was season 3 and 4, I believe they were kind of transitioning into this whole Kree aspect where the Kree actually created the Inhumans, and they kind of developed the whole thing with Daisy Johnson, her being Quake and developing abilities having to do with, vibrations and sonics and all that stuff, and them actually introducing the Terrigen Mist in the way that it transforms people. And even though the Inhumans are a terrible set of comic book characters for many different reasons that I'm not going to get to in this video, for the most part, it does explain a lot of Marvel's history. The Inhumans and the Kree and even other different various alien races that do exist in Marvel Comics actually have a very heavy tie into the whole aspect of the Marvel landscape, as well as the Eternals and the Deviants and all that stuff. Genetically, this is all tied into a singular point, and I think they're going to explore that as they get into the Marvel and MCU situation regarding the Disney Plus app. Now, this does include the fact that Scarlet Witch is going to get her own show, which is going to allow her to explore a little bit more about her powers and the reason why her genetic encoding allow her to access chaos magic. Also, we're probably going to get a Bucky and a not Super Soldier, I keep saying Super Soldier, Winter Soldier show, and that's going to explore a little bit about not just their relationship, but overall what he kind of dealt with while going through the process of becoming the Winter Soldier, and a little bit more about Steve Rogers' past and his whole lifetime of living with Peggy in the past. And we're going to get little tidbits of details about this project and the reason why it was so relevant and the mindset behind a lot of these governments and the reason why they felt the need to create soldiers and people who were just that much more powerful than the average Joe. Despite the fact that, don't get me wrong, like I said, I am a fan and I enjoy the show so much, and because the show introduced so many aspects of the MCU and the Marvel and it kind of tied it together, in a lot of ways this show absolutely cannot be completely erased from the timeline. They were the ones to consistently tie the Kree into what was going on genetically. They tied in the fact that the monoliths were related to a lot of the evolutionary statuses in different various alien races. We kind of see that correlation right now, and even to some degree the monoliths were like a precursor to the Infinity Gauntlet, where one is able to manipulate matter, the other can transport you through space, and the other can kind of transport you through time. So you kind of see the correlation on how this show in particular heavily influenced a lot of what was going on in these movies, as well as they kind of expanded on some of the things that happened on the big screen but didn't quite get explained in depth, and then it kind of did so within the TV show. So even though overall the show may not be called Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or they may not have their own little individual run, I still think these characters are going to exist throughout the rest of Phase 4, 5, and all that stuff, and they might even develop into a separate department and become, S.H.I.E.L.D. and not S.H.I.E.L.D., SWORD. And this kind of gonna branch off, and they're gonna use what was established in this show to kind of, introduce other characters, like maybe Blue Marvel in the series or maybe another movie, and then Phil Coulson will probably be introduced or reintroduced into different movies, and you might see Quake somewhere else, you might see Max somewhere else, you might see Fitz and Simmons somewhere else. They can always be introduced in different shows as their same characters, but they may not have their own solo run. So it is very possible that the S.H.I.E.L.D. show or Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., yes, it may cease to exist, but these characters are going to keep existing in the MCU because they introduce so many aspects of the Marvel universe when it comes to the comic books, especially when it came to the scientific aspect, the whole Hydra aspect, as well as the magical aspect where Ghost Rider came into the play, and then the Darkhold and different dimensions and kind of live model decoys. All this stuff was very real, and they established this in their show, and all of these aspects of this the Marvel Comics landscape was very crucial in Marvel Comics at one point or another, and this show definitely did introduce those aspects, and they did it very well, and it did it well consistently. So I would say don't be too sad that the show's going away. If anything, it's just allowing other concepts to make its way to the big screen or even the small screen, if you want to call it that. But for the most part, we're going to see these concepts be reintroduced in different various ways, and I think you should be able to look forward to that. And then at the end of the day, just be, happy that you were a part of the process when it came to Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what they introduced into the MCU and what they actually will be involving themselves into in the future. So that is very much, I'm almost sure I'm willing to bet the farm on it. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you feel like they're not going to be introduced in any more movies, or do you feel like this is pretty much it, that none of the characters are going to be coming back in any way, shape, or form? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Please tell me what you think. Tell me your opinions. Tell me your feelings. And I hope to see you later on. Peace out.